Welcome back guys. So in this video I'll be talking about different topics. I'll start from Citra Android emulator for 3DS. Now it is a fork based on the official Citra emulator. The official build is available on Playstore. You can download it for free. Official build is licensed by the GNU GPL version 2 and the full source code is available on GitHub. This is the GitHub page of Citra MMJ Android emulator. You can see the different builds here, latest builds. Now here's the thing guys, source code for the latest builds have not been uploaded. Since the MMJ build is based on the official build, its developers should have uploaded the source code. Now there can be many reasons for not doing this. It is possible that the developer does not want the hackers to steal the MMJ build and sell it on Playstore, inject it with ads or even malware. It is also possible that the MMJ developer is hiding some malicious code. Now guys, I have used this MMJ build and even scanned it. Let me just show you the results. I scanned it using hybrid analysis. No threats were found. It is completely clean. No malicious code. Scanned the APK in a virtual machine. Marked as clean. In the end, I'll just leave it to you guys. If you don't want to use the MMJ build, you can always use the official Citra build available on Playstore. But let me make one thing very clear. MMJ build is miles better in terms of performance as compared to the official build. I have already done that testing. I'll give the link to that video in the description of this video. If the source code of the MMJ build is not present and you want to use it, just make sure you scan the APK before installing it on your Android device. Next up, we have a new update for Dolphin MMJR2 build by Lumince, version 2.0-17174. You can see its changelog. Update source code from Dolphin official build version 5.0-17174. X-Link Kai and HLE broadband adapters in GameCube GUI have been added. Now this enables GameCube LAN feature. Only 3 GameCube games supported. I have highlighted a couple of games using the GameCube LAN feature. I used the official build. Link to the video will be given in the description of this video. I have already compared the performance of this build with official Dolphin MMJR2 builds. I played Resident Evil 4 on my Redmi K50i Dimensity 8100 processor. Link to the video will be given in the description. I usually recommend this build to people who are looking for a fork based on the official Dolphin build and not Dolphin MMJ build. Moving on to the next news. It is related to PCSX2 PlayStation 2 emulator for Windows, Linux and Mac. It now supports achievements via retro achievements. Now guys, AetherSX2 PS2 Android emulator is based on it. It is possible that in the future, even AetherSX2 emulator supports achievement. I am looking forward to it. Talking about AetherSX2 emulator, it just received a significant update in the form of version 1.3. This is the Patreon page of AetherSX2. Here the developer has shared the details of this new update. According to the developer, this month's update is fairly significant and was delayed by a couple of weeks due to the additional testing. There will be a slow rollout compared to the other months. It may take up to a week or two for the update to show up on your mobile phone. If you want to access it earlier, you can always enroll in the open testing channel and sideload the APK from AetherSX2's website. This month's update includes performance improvements and new features. A gain of 5 to 15% is observed in some games. The developer also reminds the community, irrespective of the performance updates, the emulator will never run on a 32-bit or older hardware. So this is a chart that the developer shared, showcasing the performance improvements. They tested the games on a phone with Snapdragon 870 processor, compared the performance of version 1.2 build with version 1.3 build. According to the developer, performance improvements will vary from game to game. Some only saw 5%, others can be up to 15%, but it also depends on our CPU. They benchmarked both a Snapdragon 845 and 870 to illustrate the improvement, and these are the results. In God of War 2 on Snapdragon 845 processor, version 1.2 build was giving 54 FPS. On version 1.3 build, FPS increased by 3, that is 57. For Snapdragon 870 processor in God of War 2, the FPS on version 1.2 build was around 86. On version 1.3 build, FPS was around 98, 12 FPS higher, almost a 14% increase. Results vary from game to game. Greatest improvement in performance was observed on the higher end processor. Moving on to the next feature, default MTVU to on for all devices with more than 3 cores. Previously, this feature was only enabled by default on devices with more than 2 big cores. I remember on my Redmi Note 9 Pro that has Snapdragon 720G processor, This feature was disabled by default, but for most of the games I used to enable it manually. This is what I recommended for running games like God of War. Now it will be enabled by default. Here the developer has also mentioned some games may be slower with empty VU on, especially if they have very high GS thread usage. In these cases you will want to disable empty VU, preferably via the per game settings. Fix sky in black. Previously we used to toggle the software rendering mode when the game was loading, and when the level started we used to toggle the software rendering mode again in order to render the sky properly. We don't need to do that anymore, it has been fixed. Handle move shuffles in hardware renderer. This is related to the graphics synthesizer. Here they have explained it in detail. It helps in improving the performance in Final Fantasy 12. Next feature, improve map mapping and trilinear filtering in hardware renderers, example Ape Escape. By fixing these issues, Ape Escape Part 2 and 3 and other games now display correctly in the hardware renderers. Next feature, improve performance of readbacks in Vulkan renderer on Adreno devices. Now phones with Snapdragon processors come with Adreno GPUs. So this improvement is limited to Snapdragon processors only. Here they have explained it in detail. Quality of life features, add auto hide touch controls after n seconds option. This feature will automatically hide the on-screen controller after the specified number of seconds. From here you can specify the number of seconds under touchscreen control settings. They also added bind touchscreen to right stick option for simple configuration. Added analog stick invert options, as you can see. Add button dead zone option, example triggers. They already had a dead zone option for analog sticks, but this did not apply to other button triggers on the controller. Now we can set a button dead zone, which will also apply to the controller triggers. Add display alignment option. You can see this is how we can change the alignment of the display. Add data import export functionality. This is interesting. Quoting the developer, replacing the import memory card item in the navigation menu. You can now both import and export all your AetherSX2 data, including save states, patches, memory cards, game settings, etc. Due to scope storage requirements, we have to store data in the app private directory, which Google has placed for the restrictions on an Android 13, preventing file managers from accessing it. I run into this issue many times on my Android 12 devices. I use my PC to access this hidden folder. Using the exporter importer provides an alternative way to transfer your data between devices. So good to have this feature. In case you don't have a PC, now you can import or export your AetherSX2 data using this feature. If you just want to import a memory card, there is a new import button within memory card settings. Add cover downloader feature. The emulator can now automatically download game covers based on the title scanned on your device. However, for legal reasons, we do not provide these cover images. As such, the downloader requires you to specify your own server or template URL to fetch these images from. Here they have shown cover downloader feature showing template list. We need to provide the URL link here. Next feature, add performance cores affinity control mode to pin all threads to big cores only. Sometimes Android schedulers pushes the AetherSX2 threads to the smaller cores of the processor instead of the big cores. This leads to inconsistent performance, especially when not touching the screen. They have added a new affinity control mode, performance cores, which enables the heavy threads to float between the big cores instead of limiting each thread to one core like the other modes. This may be useful for Pixel or Samsung devices with aggressive scheduling, and even more so when you have an unequal distribution of big cores, example Google's Tensor. Next feature, re-add per game setting reset to profiles. Fix some IOP instructions potentially using SP as an argument, minor recompiler fix. Lastly, we have add settings input overlays. In addition to displaying performance statistics and device information in the on-screen display, we can now display the controller state as well as a summary of all settings in the bottom right corner of the screen. This may be helpful when sharing screenshots, as others can use the same configuration as us. You can see the abbreviation here for all of the settings. That's it with this update. It's a fairly significant one. I hope it ends up soon on the Playstore page. Moving on to Google Stadia Cloud Game Streaming Service. Just received this email yesterday. The service is shutting down. It will remain live for players until 18th of January 2023. Google will be refunding all Stadia purchases like hardware, software, games, DLCs. A news is coming in that Ubisoft will allow players to transfer their Stadia games to PC. It's a good gesture. Now I'm not surprised at this shutdown news. I was not a fan of Stadia. Never liked the idea of buying games exclusive to a cloud platform. Using this service, we were not able to play games that we already own on Steam. This is entirely opposite of GeForce Now. We also have Microsoft's xCloud cloud game streaming service. You don't need to own any games on that platform in order to play them. Just need to have Game Pass Ultimate subscription. So there you go. Lastly, we have the controversial Switch Android emulator AetherSX2. It is now available on Playstore. The Playstore build went live yesterday. This emulator is not new at all. It has been around for almost a year now. It is allegedly running on stolen code from Yuzu emulator that is available on Windows and Linux. For this reason alone, I boycott this emulator, never promote it. AetherSX2 team has their own website from where they distribute the emulator. Back then when it was launched, it was locked behind GameSir-X2 Type-C controller, a very expensive controller, not worth its price. Over time they added touch control support and made it a subscription based service, very expensive. Just like Demon PS2 emulator, it requires internet access to run the games. Even with the Play Store build, in order to run any game, you need to purchase this subscription. The emulator now supports Xbox and other controllers. It's not limited to GameSir-X2 Type-C controller. Touch controls are also supported. Again, you need to pay them money. Emulators like these give a bad name to Android emulation community. That's why I have decided not to promote this emulator. So I won't be testing any games. In the end, it is entirely up to you. Personally, I recommend people Skyline Switch Android emulator. It's free, does not steal your information. As of now, it is in early development stage, but still a lot of 2D games can be played. Over time, it should be able to outperform AetherSX2 emulator. Skyline can do that in some games even now, but compatibility is still an issue. I am expecting things to get better with the future updates. So guys, I'll end the video here. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.